Okay, I'd like to call to order the Madison Fire District regular meeting for February 19th, 2025. Roll call.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Donaldson. Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Sill.
Here.
Mr. Wayman.
Just for the record, Mr. Wayman and Mr. Donaldson are out of town.
Right.
Okay, if we can, do a pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go to the minutes from January 15th, 2025. And we'll need two, Stacy, for the reorganizational and, or,
Yeah, usually you do too,
Okay.
especially for the reorg.
okay. So for the reorg, we'll need a motion for that.
You have that motion.
I will second.
And discussion on anything there? Roll call?
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Abstain.
Mr. Sill.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, we'll need a motion for the regular session from January 15th, 2025.
You have that motion.
A second?
I'll second that.
No discussion? No discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Abstain.
Mr. Sill.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Okay, next we're going to go to bills and payroll for January 2025. Bills were $178,062.89. Payroll was $194,764.46, which total $372,827.35. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And do we have a second? And any discussion on
Second.
that? No discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Sill.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes. All righty, we're going to go to the January 2025 financial report. Joanne?
Okay, we started January with $6,414,925.90. Our month-to-date, year-to-date revenue are the same, it's $109,869.53. And our month-to-date expenditure is the same as our year-to-date expenditures, again, is $372,827.35. Our ending balance to start February was $6,151,968.08. We have encumbered already $1,570,109.37. That is the medical, utilities, vehicle repairs, the new squads that we have on order. That's in there. So that leaves an unencumbered balance of $4,581,858.71. And so, you know, on Monday, the chief and I met, and we came out with, I think he might share it with you later, the vehicle expenditure plan that pretty much takes up that $4,581,000. And also some staffing we'd like to change. So I'll let him do that report.
Okay. Any questions for Joanne? No?
No questions.
Very good. Okay. And move on to opening public portion. I don't know if we had anything online. Lieutenant, nothing?
Nothing on that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to legal counsel, Mrs. Dane.
So this evening, the only thing that I want to bring up is we do need to have 2 members selected for a step 3 grievance meeting that we have to get scheduled here in the near future. So I just need to know what individuals would like to serve in that capacity and possible days and times for such a meeting.
I think Mr. Lee volunteered from the village, and if we could probably get one from the township, that'd probably be a good idea.
Did you want to do it, Tom? No. Okay. When will this be?
Whenever it's convenient for everybody who's going to be at the meeting.
And Mr. Anderson said he would
Yeah.
Okay.
do it for them. So then you guys just get together,
Yeah.
work something out there.
Right.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to old business, the nursing home volume volume review that, Chief, I think Mr. Lee asked about.
Yeah, Mr. Lee last meeting brought up the nursing home volume, and how it's always a concern for us. So we talked to Cardinal Woods and Madison Healthcare last month. We met with them, and of course we met with the one gentleman who was kind of their director down there. Well, he was taking a new position when I talked to him a couple weeks ago. So now there's a new person down there that I have to go meet and greet. So, and then start over again. But I will say that, and I don't want to jinx it, but it does seem to be a little bit, trending in a proper direction without giving any direction. So if you look at last year's numbers, I thought I had it in front of me here.
Yeah, you don't have a total.
Right.
Thank you, yeah. So I have all the heavy hitters, and then I have the 2 urgent cares in there as well. So the only thing I want to make note of is Madison Healthcare. We did have a gentleman last year, even though it was up almost 50 runs, which is very concerning. I believe we had one problem there that was causing probably about between 10 and 20 of those runs, so it's not as bad as it looks, if you will. The urgent care from Cleveland Clinic did go down. However, we have to keep an eye on that because the UH urgent care opened late in 23, so last year we had a full year with them. So I'm kind of waiting to see if maybe they took some business away, or people went to the UH instead of Cleveland Clinic now that they have options. So we'll see if those numbers marry up next year as we kind of get in the trending direction. The other ones are pretty much the same. Cardinal Woods went down. Lakeland Nursing Home and Broadfield, they're very, very small numbers, even though Broadfield went up a little bit. The Lantern is another big nursing home down north, and they went down a little bit. So we're keeping an eye on them. We're visiting with them, trying to educate them on, our expectations and, what they can possibly do to help us, help them with using some private services out there. So it's a work in progress.
Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Anything else on that? All good? All righty, we're going to go on to new business. I think we have a resolution here. Mrs. Dame, you want to? Yeah?
Yes, resolution number 25-06 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 V8 all-wheel drive Durango Chase vehicle per the attached proposal and specifications in an amount not to exceed $45,635.00 from Classic Ford in Madison, as approved and specified through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services, DAS, Office of State Purchasing Cooperative, specifically RS 102497221, and authorizing payments provided pursuant to the contract.
And this is something we had in the budget, right?
Yeah, we had planned for this last year. Station 2 has the vehicle we put the transmission in as their backup Chase with well over 100,000 miles, and then they have the pickup truck that they use now as Frontline, which has about 60,000. We're going to try to make that last because that's our main plow truck.
Right.
So we're going to put that back up and add this new vehicle for their Chase. And just for reference, that's probably one of the busier Chase vehicles in Lake County, because we run a lot of calls out of that station, and they make a lot of runs up here to meet with me and make mail runs, so it's definitely going to be needed.
Okay. Do we have a motion for?
Question.
Yep.
Okay, Madam Legal Beagle,
Yes,
you said 45,600?
$45,635.00.
Okay, what about the,
It has a 3 in the number in the paragraph, the caption.
yes,
Yes, that needs to be corrected.
okay, but what about the state bid with options is 45,933?
So they're actually offering it to us at a lower cost. So
Okay.
we will take that lower cost
Yes, we will.
Right.
Yep.
when available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions
I'm
on
good.
that? All good? All good? Do we have a motion to pass resolution 2506?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion on that? No. Roll call.
Mr. So.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
All righty. And I believe we got another resolution, 2507. Mrs. Dane?
So before we get to that, the board was given a copy of the Lexipol proposal. This is the company that creates standard policies, especially specifically for fire service. In this case, they presented a couple of different options to the district based on the different types of services. Just to summarize it briefly, they have one service that's basically a subscription service. They do that as, you would do it annually. They prorate it for this year and then would also require us to have a subscription for the following year, so 25 and 26, and they priced both of those years. After that, then we could decide that we don't want to do it every year and maybe just every once in a while subscribe so that we could get the updates. If you're not subscribed, you're not going to get the updates for, ongoing cases or different things that they've had come up that they found need tweaked in their policies. So with the policy subscription, you get their full manual. It has more than 155 policies. They are the best practices. They're standards in the industry nationwide, and they're adopted by a lot of other municipal entities here in Northeast Ohio, including Lake County. It also includes daily training bulletins and, like I said, the updates, and then also different access to resources. Then it's basically a matter, and on the proposal, that figure for 2025 prorated was $8,564.25, and then for 26 it was $10,277.10. So again, that's just for the policy manual. And then in the presentation, they talked about the assistance that the fire district could get to try and make the policies fit a little bit better for different things that we do here, or our practices, or things that we might want to do a little bit differently. And they would help to basically make those changes to the policies. So there's two different ways to do it. There's the, what do they call it? The full implementation, where it would literally be a deep dive with someone sitting there with us regularly and going and basically adjusting that whole policy manual to fit different things that we want to do. So I think that proposal was like in excess of $20,000. I don't think that that's necessary for the district's needs, especially at this point. The one that was interesting to me is the focused implementation. That would allow up to like 50 policies to be looked at. We would get to pick which policies we were either most concerned about or that needed to be tweaked based on, the chief and the administration here. And they would help us to modify those policies. The reason I found that interesting is because since this would be our first time working with this manual, working with these policies, it would give that extra access to the individuals who are familiar with the policies and answer any questions that we have and really allow us to make it work for our department, instead of us just adopting it or trying to figure it out as we go. So in the resolution that I drafted for consideration, I included both the 25 and 26 subscription, just so we'd have those 2 years to kind of, familiarize ourselves, adopt the policies, get used to them, and then also that focused implementation, which that price is the $13,486.50. So if you add those three things together, the total cost would be $32,327.85, just so the board has a number. But again, that's up for discussion. I don't know, I haven't had a chance to really talk to the chief since we attended the presentation, and I don't know what his thoughts are, but I didn't think full implementation was a good budget cost advantage analysis based on what we were looking for. But it is my recommendation that at a minimum, we would get that subscription and the policy manual and be able to adopt those standard policies and best practices.
And so at a minimum, what would the cost be?
At a minimum, it would probably be that $8,564.25 and the $10,277.10. Because I do think in reading this that we'd have to do those 2 years. Is that your
Okay.
understanding, Chief? That we'd have to do those, we'd be committed to an automatic renewal for that next year for 26. And then we'd have the right to cancel after that initial first, since they're prorating it.
Right, right. Yeah, and I got the sense, like Ms. Dame said, that the focused implementation, which is the up to 50 policies, and the policy, there's policies and then there's the procedures part of it. The procedures we customize to what we need in Madison, but the policies are driven by legal and by best practice, by the FLSA stuff with labor laws and all that. So it's kind of a two-headed animal there, if you will. But yeah, the focus implementation seems to be, from what I've been reading and learning about, seems to be the best fit for us, because they can help us and we can help them and come up with a really good document. So
I think this is very friendly, user-friendly, let's say, user-friendly. And we have this in Painesville, so I've been using this the last several years. And I'll tell you what, this covers everything. It covers anything you want to do.
Yeah.
It covers the guys and the girls and
Yeah.
basically the public, everything. So this is probably the best, system I've seen.
Right.
Yeah, and
In my
again, since
career.
it's a upfront cost, it's gonna be more here in the beginning because we need all of this.
Correct.
But then after that, going forward, then we can kind of control what we want that cost to be going forward for updates.
Definitely.
Jay, in your experience with what you've used, do you guys continue that subscription? Or do you do it for 2 years and then take a break?
No, it's just
Just keep
continued.
going through.
Yeah,
You can either way.
correct.
Yeah, if you wanted to drop it, you could.
But I haven't seen anybody
Me
drop
neither.
it.
I haven't either.
So,
So what did Jay say to that?
I haven't seen anybody drop that.
Oh.
We continue it. It's just year after
Okay.
year after
Yeah.
year, so,
Exactly.
yeah. It's not like we drop it, then, go
Right.
back 2 years later. I mean, once you're in this system, it's an excellent system.
It is.
So, that's just my opinion.
Well, that's the proof of the pudding, is if organizations continue it, then it must have some value to the organization.
It does.
Because you're putting out a significant amount each year.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions on that? No other questions? I guess we have a motion then.
So would you like me to
To
read the resolution as
See
it
if we have
is
motion.
currently with those figures for the 2 subscription years and also the focused implementation, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Resolution number 25-07 is a resolution authorizing and approving an agreement for utilization of Lexipol as a provider of fire policy manual subscription services, training, and focused implementation for the Madison Fire District and authorizing payments as required under said service agreement.
Do we have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Sill?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to staffing. Chief, is that something you want to have?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the officers and I were kicking around some staffing ideas with the increased amount of call volume and some of the staffing. If you look at your sheets there, you should have some color-coded staffing calendars. There's an example one in there that has a bunch of red and yellows and grays and whites and colors and everything. That's kind of a typical, I'd say that's probably a little bit abnormal as far as time off because we're at the end of our cycle. But I want to give you the feel for what the calendar is. Like it's a living, breathing, up to the minute, up to the hour document. So when you look at the call volume that we have, if there's a sheet that I created that's got the greens and grays on it, with call volume by the hour. Bear with me here. I know there's a lot of documents in there. And it's this one here if you want to use it as an example. Should be in there.
It should be the last one.
It's the last page.
Keep on.
So there's a snapshot
There you
period
go.
at the
There you
top.
go.
There you
Okay.
go. So this is a snapshot of our calls by the hour, and comparing it to our current staff. The proposed the officers proposed an option of an 8 to 8 shift during the day, and then there's also one that we kind of kicked around from 6 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, adding a 12-hour block. So if you look at the far right, the green column, those are all the calls within that hour of that time period. So as you can see, a lot of it, the heavy hitters are usually between 8 and probably 9, 10 o'clock at night. So there's really no perfect, in a perfect world, it would be like a 10 to 10 shift, but as far as consistency and staffing and payroll and tracking, it becomes a nightmare when you try to put this all together and put it into one document. So we have a couple different ideas we're kicking around. So we have coverage at the maximum time of the day for our call volume. Station 2 does run a majority of the calls. If you look at the very bottom, for 2025 through the middle of February, Station 2's ran 316, Station 3 has ran 189 when you run the numbers in the system. So they're almost 2/3 to 1/3, not quite that skewed, but you get the gist. And my hours are during the day, usually anywhere from 8 to 4, and I flex them. Sometimes I'm in at 7:30 till 4, 4:30, whatever. So, but my main hours are about where that gray area is. So I'm kind of the extra person. I don't count myself, but like yesterday, I ran a call with one of the guys from Station 2. I went to the hospital with him and our backup squad here, so it happens, which I'm happy to help whenever I can. So if you look at the, go back to the calendars here. So we have a current schedule, which basically is void of the Saturday and Sundays at Station 3 at the corners, if you will. It's just the gray and white, the plain Jane at the front. So the first phase the officers wanted to do was to fill in the weekend spots with the orange on the second page. So to add 12 hours on Saturday at Station 3.
Hold it, Chief.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know.
I have nothing.
Right.
That's the one, yep.
Yep.
So we want to, those two orange shifts are missing in our calendar right now.
Oh.
So
okay.
we added the Monday through Friday a couple years ago to allow for the kind of the captains to kind of get their work done, and with inspections, with training, with EMS, with everything. So we didn't add the weekends to that one, but we're getting to the point where we need more consistency. Plus our transports are up. So basically we ran 3,700 in 23. We ran 3,900 in 2024. We're on pace to do probably about 41 to 4,200 this year. So it's only going up. So the officers proposed that we add those two spots to make it 4 and 4 all the way through the week. At a number of, Joanne and I ran it at $30 an hour just to cover the part-time, because it's a part-time slot. There's no pension to it. So that's about $37,000 in the budget for that 24 hours for the week. And that continues on through the year. So that's all 52 weeks. That's what the cost would be if it's filled 100%. So we think that's kind of a no-brainer. 90 transports, we bring in about 400 to 425 a transport. So 90 extra runs basically covers that cost right there for us. So it's not a big deal when you look at the budget. So the big one we're looking at, if you go into the sheets a little bit more, there's the 8 to 8, which is the blue one, which is at a cost of $131,000 for the year if you fill it 100%. And I have the hours broken down there. So that would be from 8 in the morning till 8 at night to cover the busier times, probably at Station 2. However, that is, after talking with the officers the last few weeks, that one seems to be a challenge. I think they're good with either way. We also have the proposal. I had a 4-hour block in here, which kind of was something we kicked around, but I don't think that's really feasible. So if you look at the green proposal, that's the 12 hours at Station 2 overnight. So that extra person would be a part-timer. They would come in at 1800, which is 6 p.m., and stay till 6 in the morning. And that would give them a little bit, a fourth person to help cover 2/3 of those calls that they get in the evening and then overnight, to kind of offset the imbalance of call volume between stations. And again, I have Inspector Solomosi here during the day. I'm here during the day. He's here twice a week. So we have some of the daytime help kind of built in and around town here. So I think we're really looking for that evening into overnight for some coverage, and that's at a cost of about $131,000 too. So I just wanted to present that to the board as something to chew on, that the officers are really pushing for, to add that extra spot. I talked to Joanne as far as budget goes. We looked at some of the projections, and she's comfortable with adding not only the weekend spots, but the extra 12-hour shift. And again, we can adjust as we go along here. Not something that has to be completely permanent, but I think to cover the increased call volume and reduce the load on our staff, especially at Station 2's area, the officers feel that is definitely justified. And with that, I'll take any questions. I know it's a lot of information.
So are you saying that we're going to have to hire an additional person?
Yeah, we're gonna have to hire some more part-time people in our ranks to cover those extra hours for sure.
Okay.
But I think in the and we have some in the role, so we'll bring them on board here in the next month or two. I just want to get this to you also with the dollars that are involved. I don't want any surprises for anybody if we were to move forward with this.
Well, would there be the possibility of hiring another full-time?
I think when you look at the offset with this, with the budget, the weekend orange, I think we're okay there. I don't think that's going to be, with the increase in call volume and the transports, that'll probably be close to a wash, in my opinion, and looking at the projections. That extra 12 hours of Station 2, right now we have an overtime spot. If somebody calls off at any of those, the 3 and 3 at night, any of those 6 spots, one person's off, which we have a lot of people off throughout. I mean, there's probably at least 2 to 3 people off at minimum during the week. So those are overtime spots for full-time.
Right.
If part-time don't pick them up. So if we were to add that 4th spot and have a sign-up calendar, and we level up with a few more part-time, that'll eliminate that overtime for full-time, which is close to $50 an hour, plus the 24% pension on top of that. So last year, our overtime budget was almost $170,000. Joanne and I looked at that, and it looks like we could probably cut that in half and make that $131,000. That would be a regular rate for part-time, almost kind of offset by, probably by a half, if we had to do that. Because it would knock out almost, and I know some of the staff doesn't want to hear this, but it would almost knock out a majority of the overtime that gets created when somebody's off at nighttime.
So do we have like a number from like maybe the last 3 years of overtime?
Yeah, it's well into the 6-figure mark, over 100,000.
Okay.
It's always scratching that number and beyond. And last year was getting close to 2. And that's usually on top of that. There's a pension number too.
So last year was the highest though, probably the last 3 years, or?
Honestly, I would have to go back and look, Mr. Adams, but I know that typically it's been into the 100,000 range, 100 to 150,000 range each year.
I mean, because these are the things I know we've been asking, over the last 8 years, is, how many people do you need? Because we wanted to reduce, this overtime, and we didn't even restrict when we asked. We didn't restrict and say, okay, do you need 1, 2, 4? We're like, you guys tell us, is what we've asked. And we've continued to ask that. And now we're at this point again, where we're like, okay, how many people do you need? And this is what I brought up with Chief Baker before. I was just like, we don't want it sugar coated. We want to know. I mean, and we had told him, and so now you're sitting in the seat, we need to know, do you need 2 full-timers? Do you need whatever it is? You know,
Right.
that's just something we need to know. And that's why I guess I was asking you, where have we been for the last 3 years, 5 years on this overtime so we can reduce it? Do we need more full-timers or more part-timers or whatever? I see you, Joanne. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I can answer that a little bit for you.
That was my next
Last
question.
year, overtime, we had $169,306.28.
how about the year prior?
Let me get that one for you now.
Okay.
And in '23, we had $170,006.47. And I can give you '22 as well.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Yeah.
And in '22, we had $81,422.80.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a jump.
Right.
Yes.
That doubled.
Yep.
Why was that? Why was that? Does it show? I mean, did we add more
No.
people or what's, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah,
That
like
was
what
just
happened
a summary I
between
had.
22 and 23.
Big
Well,
time.
they got more time, the full-timers got more vacation time and another Kelly day
Mhm.
in their last contract, which is coming
Correct.
up to the end of it this year.
Right.
So I think that had something to do with it as well. And we have
Yeah.
some, yeah, so there's a lot of fluctuation in there.
Yeah, if we could go back and just see
Yeah.
what that, why that number jumped like that.
We went from making a 6-spot voluntary overtime.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, I'd have to go back on the notes, but I know probably maybe 3 years ago, that 6-spot, instead of mandating people, was always a voluntary spot, because I think it was healthier for the staff to want to pick it up versus being forced here. So we made that 6-spot at night when it was, somebody was off. That was a voluntary overtime, which we have a few people that like to pick those up. And it provides a level of stability. So when I look at this extra spot, I see it as an extra buffer. And we've hired, Mr. Adams, we hired 8 people last year, and then since I took over, we've hired about, definitely double digits, 12 to 15, between full-time and part-time from the outside. So we were a little bit behind when
Yeah.
I took over. So now, and I think we probably could hire 3 to 5 more, honestly, to offset some of the, because it's, with part-time, it's not as consistent as the full-time, obviously, because they want their time off too.
Oh,
when
yeah.
their summers come and when their weekends come as well, they want to live their lives with their families too. So, you can't blame them for that. That's one of the hardest things to do, is manage that part-time, and find out what the sweet number is. It's always
Right.
It's always fleeting.
Well, I guess that's what we're looking for,
Mhm.
is to see where you guys need to be at.
Right.
And, especially if, back in 2022 or whatever, we're around 80,000. I know we added people.
Mhm.
I get that. And I recall that. I just want to know, hey, next year, are we looking at then $200,000 or whatever, in overtime? Or do we need, like you say, 1 full-timer, 2 full-timers, 1 full-timer, 3 part-time, whatever it is, that's just what you need to bring to the table so we know, and we can kick it around. And I just don't want to be here next year and be like, okay, now we're at 200,000, because guess what? The year after that, we're going to be at 220,000. So if we can nip it in the bud now, I'm good with that. I would fight for that, but I just need to know what that number is, or whatever, personnel it is that you need. Just bring it to the table so we can kick it around then.
Yep.
Okay.
Jay,
Yes.
Jay, so far this year, through this last payroll, we have spent $20,446.85 in overtime this year, so you know.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay. So I guess by maybe next month, Chief, then we can have something where you're definite on whatever number of personnel that it is. If you, is that
Yeah.
good enough? I mean, just so we're all on the same page and.
So I guess just looking at this, Chief, you were proposing adding on the orange page, you're adding 2 spots, 37,000, but you think that's going to be a wash.
Mhm.
And then the 131,000 is more full-time,
No, that would be.
or that's full,
That's a
but
part-time 12-hour
part-time.
spot at night, yeah. Which
But-
I believe would cut down on some of the overtime that we've been talking about, and obviously hiring some more part-time, which that's in the works once we get through this month, to try to help, because there's going to be we're going to add 24 hours to the weekends, plus there's a potential for that 84 hours at nighttime to Station 2. So we'd have to hire some more part-time to kind of offset some of those numbers. And we're already at the highest we've been in a long time with staff.
With staffing,
part-time.
yeah, that's what I thought you had said,
We
you know,
had,
a
we
couple
have
months
20,
ago.
we have 19 full-time staff and we have roughly 20 part-time staff. We were down to as low as 9 when I took over, so we've ramped up our part-time, and, you know, obviously we need to do a little bit more. We can look at the full-time numbers, but as you well know, that's anywhere from 125 to 150 just.
But we have one full-timer that's in the works right now, correct?
Right,
So,
yeah.
so we have to fill that position.
Correct.
So I'm assuming that's gonna help a little bit.
It should, yeah.
Okay.
That'll fill the one shift. But I mean, that they're gonna come at their own cost. They're gonna come at a full-time cost, not a
Yep.
part-timer
Right.
that's filling right
Exactly.
now, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
yeah, because overtime's already trending to clear 200.
Mhm. Yeah, so we.
Well,
we gotta
and our
do
call
something with that.
volume is only going up. Our EMS reimbursements were 725 last year, and this year, 2023. And then last year we brought in just under $1 million, so we're 200,000 above what we brought in 23 for that, and we'll be projecting even more this year probably.
Yeah. Well, I don't like to take staffing away from one station just to go to another station, but when you have, you know, one of the stations is doing 63% of the work, and they have the same amount as the others, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what we can do there. I don't know if you can shift some manpower around there or something. I mean, obviously I wouldn't want you to go short either place.
Right.
But, I mean, you have over 60% coming out of Station 2.
Right.
With the same amount as people.
Sure.
In Station 3 and 2. So I think that might be something, you know, we'd have to look at too.
I mean, yeah, we have the 4 and 4 during the day, and obviously when you look at the numbers, I mean, we're covering, and Station 3 is also backing up Station 2, so
Correct.
about 20 to 30% of our calls are overlapping. So when you look at the call volume, I mean, probably 1,000 calls or so, 1,200 maybe, they're overlapping, maybe even more. So there's no easy formula to figure all that out.
With manpower, there never is.
No.
And
So-
no.
Nope.
And there's never enough of it.
I'll put my
Right.
union hat on and say there's an easy way to do it, but we can't afford that many full-time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I said though, but we need to have that number. You know, we need to have a number so we're not keep on going, because this is what we're gonna do. We're just going up and up and up every year with the overtime. So we need something to alleviate this.
Well, our minimum staffing is 5. I mean, we could alleviate it right now and take away the voluntary overtime. I mean, that's been in place before I took over. So that's one way we can probably knock that down.
Well, I'm all about manpower, you know.
Oh, yeah,
And
I would
I
rather
know
see
it's-
3 in an engine than 2 in an engine.
Yes.
Just for safety reasons for our staff. So that's why we kind of made that 6th spot a voluntary versus a mandate. So it gave the personnel some power, if you will, to pick that up versus, hey, you're coming in tonight. I know you have a wedding or you have a kids' basketball game, but sorry about your luck.
Right.
So we kind of left it more of a flexible spot, that 6th spot at night.
Well, once again, I think it's just something where we have to think outside the box, you know, and, you know, I definitely don't want to see your manpower go down, obviously, you know, that's just that's a no-no coming from me, at least. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but, you know, you need the manpower. I just, you know, I would just feel more comfortable knowing what that number is instead of you guys be like, oh, geez, you know, let's try one. Hey, if it's 3 people, you need to say, hey, this is why we need 3 people, or whatever it is. You know, if it's full-time, part-time, whatever.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Well, I think for this proposal here, Mr. Adams, it was more about just trying to cover that extra increase in volume and give Station 2 a little bit more possibility of rotating their staff through those calls at night so that they can get a couple hours of sleep instead of being up, you know, all 3 of them being up all the time. So I think that's kind of where the officers were going with this. They did propose the 8 to 8, although that's helpful, but it doesn't kind of solve, there's still a gap in the evening up until close to midnight when we're still running calls. So there's, like I said, there's no perfect cycle or perfect model. We can
If I may, that was the discussion that we had, was the 8 to 8 might help those heavy hitter hours, but the 6 to 6 will alleviate some of the pressure of our guys that are running, and at the same time will almost definitely cut down some of our overtime costs. So you're almost funding part of that new staff with overtime money. So, like I said, it might show what $130,000 it's going to cost for that, but then we're going to get $50,000-$60,000 off the overtime to put towards that person.
Right.
I think that was kind of the main reason why we looked at that and the tracking.
Okay.
Well, Chief, I think what apparently the board is trying to tell you is come to us with a recommendation, and, you know, don't be afraid to say, hey, I need a full-time person, or I need 2 full-time people, or I need 3 part-timers. You know, you're the one who knows what's happening out there, and, you know, we are driven by the support of our community, and we have to provide a certain level of safety resources for that community. And, you know, if it's going to cost us a couple of extra pennies here or there, you know, the safety resources are worth it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you're ever going to have, you know, I mean, in all of my years in politics, I have, well, very seldom do you see anti-protests for police levies or fire levies.
Exactly.
Maybe police, but not so much. Not so much fire.
We don't
So,
have a problem.
yeah, just let us know. But you're in the process right now of hiring some part-timers.
Yeah, we're gonna be. Yeah, we'll hire the full timer here in the next, probably before the next. We'll have the recommendation for March's meeting, and then we're gonna be in the process of putting on more part time now.
Okay.
These were the officers' recommendations to add some more slots to help cover the increased call volume and stress on our staff. And I talked to Joanne the other day, and she didn't seem to think it was going to be a budget problem. Full-time does make me pause because of
Pension.
all the pension, all the contributions, and yeah, I'd say in a couple of years we can maybe, once the next contract gets figured out at the end of this year, and we know what we're going to have projection-wise, like right now, I don't feel comfortable even going that route.
Okay.
Chief, kind of piggybacking off of what they were talking about there, when we look at the statistics as far as the incidents and, you know, response times and things of that nature, how are you seeing the trends in those response times? And of course, that leads into, do we have enough staff to cover those things and maintain the safety that we should be?
Sure. Yeah, no, our staff does a fantastic job. Each community is different from, talking and listening to their radio traffic. I believe we've only had 8 or 9 times where mutual aid came here to help. We usually scramble and cover our own calls. So that means both stations are out. We have maybe 1 and 1 left over, and we get another EMS call. Those two, one brings an ambulance, one brings a chase vehicle. They meet up and they just make it work. That's what Madison does. We've always done that. Now, it's not ideal because I don't want to leave the town with nobody, but that's kind of why I brought the staffing models to you, so we can maybe have a little bit more of a buffer in there and consistently over the course of the day and into the evening. As far as your statistics question, it's all trending up. Overlapping calls is about 30%. When one's out and the other station gets a call during that time, that's an overlapping call, and it happens quite frequently. What really hurts us is we're 50 square miles roughly, and it just takes a minute to back up station 2 or for station 2 to back up out here. Ideally we would need 5 stations to really overlap each other and get there for that 4 minutes, but financially we've never been able to do that. This station was kind of the start of that, a decade ago. Yeah, and then we have trains. Yeah, weather. Yeah, so I think, when you look at a Painesville City, they run more call volume than we do. However, they have about the same amount of people on shift during the day, maybe even a little bit less, but their footprint is a lot smaller, so they're able to be very nimble with theirs, whereas we're kind of lumbering and we're just large area, we have a lot of travel time, if you will.
I believe Painesville City uses more mutual aid too.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yeah, they don't send a 3rd squad out, which we do. Sometimes during the day we can scramble a 4th squad, honestly, if it's timed just right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anything else with the staffing? All good? All right, Chief, we'll go into your report.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anniversaries, Fiscal Officer Joanne Clapp passed her 10 years. Congratulations, Joanne.
Congratulations.
Hey.
Thank you.
Time flies when you're having fun here. Daniel Clems, who was at Station 2 today, he's passed his 1 year. Look at the financial overview. It's really early in the year, but we've collected 1% of our tax revenue. Our EMS revenue, we've collected 8.2, and we spent about 7.5% of our annual budget so far to date. Staffing overview, it's stable. It's the end of the vacation cycle, so everyone's we have people that sign up early on in March for the whole year and have their days figured out, and then we have people that kind of just take off when they feel like it. And right now is the end of the cycle up until March 4th. So some people might have 2-3 days to burn. So that's why you see so much red on the calendar I gave you. That's kind of the end of the year, the end of the calendar year cycle for vacation for our full-time. So that's why the overtime is needed right now. Call volume, we responded to about 360. I believe it was 350. It was like 357 maybe. Sometimes that Sanzio number jumps around. Yeah. About 360 last month, and then for last year we responded to 3,900 calls. You can see the trend in the graph. Of course, it's trending up right now. Fire inspections are ongoing. They should be in your folder. Inspector Solomosi is going to be off for a little while, so next month may be a little bit lighter. He's got most of his stuff done, and he'll be back in March to pick up where he left off. I know Captain Sopko is working on some of the plan reviews and some of the businesses that are going in, especially the nursing home over there off of River Street. Vehicles, we had our chase vehicle here, one of the tracer lightings that's on the rocker panel on the near the doors. One of those went bad, so we had that warranted, so that should be getting fixed here soon. The chase vehicle, obviously, the 2127, which is our pickup from Station 2 that we're going to eventually replace with the one you all approved tonight, that had a heater core repaired at $3,000. So that hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's about a 5-year-old vehicle. Costs what it costs, I guess. 47, which is our chase vehicle down there. That's the one you guys approved tonight. Buildings, we had our Resner heater down at Station 2, which basically houses the extra vehicle perhaps and some of the lawnmower equipment and the jet ski. The thermal couple went bad, so Captain Henry was able to, with his Pharmanomics there, he bought one and ended up fixing it for us for a really cheap price. Officer recommendations, the full-time process is ongoing. Hopefully next month we'll have a recommendation for the one we're missing in our staff. The officers are reviewing staffing models, which we just covered. The vehicle replacement schedule I provided with you tonight. It's got the light blue with the grids.
Yep.
If you guys can find that, if you want to look at it real quick. So Joanne and I worked on this Monday and kind of projected it out. And of course we tried to anticipate any increased cost in just materials and vehicles in general. Nothing crazy. I mean, we're going to need the big one and the engine. We have a 2007 fire engine, 2113. We're estimated to probably replace that one in 2032-ish. Once one of our engines is getting close to 10 years old, so we can stay within the ISO rating. We're estimating that to be about $1.5 million, so that's going to be the one that hurts at that time. So at some point we'll have to talk about maybe replacing or adding some levies, if you will. We do have some that are from 2003, 2006. Joanna and I talked about that schedule too and what those can possibly bring in. We also talked about sitting with Barb at the county and figuring out, some projections and what we could do there that we can maybe bring to you all in the future here to talk about the, future levy stuff as it relates to our master planning here. If you look at we started in 2022, so I have a purchase. So far we purchased about 1.4 million in vehicles through 25 with the vehicle you approved tonight. And then the rest of the way from 26 and on, we have about $4 million in needs that go out to 2038, just so you have an idea. And like we talked about, that's what's in basically our savings account right now if we did nothing, which I don't anticipate that happening. Obviously, that would be poor planning on our part, but so that gives you kind of an idea of what we're looking for vehicles. I'll entertain any questions on that sheet if you have any. You notice the chase vehicles, they went up, they start at 60 and then they go up to 80 or 90. A couple of them are pickup trucks, so we projected a little bit higher for those with possible plow and then the upfitting as well. Those lights packages for a proper chase vehicle, as most with the cop cars, are probably in the $15,000 range, maybe even more, depending on what you get. The squads, we had purchased some for $275, just under $300,000. So they project up to be maybe $350,000 to $400,000 as you get later in the years there. And like I said, the big one we bought the last engine for. Those two engines, we bought the first one for $500,000. The second one was $700,000, late 2023. And right now they're projected to be about $1.5 million when we get to that point. So hopefully something happens to where materials come down, labor comes down. I don't know. But I don't know how people are going to keep up with that kind of inflation.
Right.
So just something for y'all to chew on. And then moving on, we did demo scheduling software that also doubles as a payroll check. It's called a LadTech. A lot of departments use this system in the county and throughout the area, in Ohio even. We did get a quote for that. I'll probably have that ready for you next month and a contract for Ms. Dame to review. It's roughly 16 pages long. The officers kind of did really like the demonstration. It basically does scheduling. It's up to the minute. You don't have to worry about doing a whole lot of emailing, waiting. It's all built in. It does truck checks. It integrates a lot of, it's got 50 different forms that you can integrate into your processes, and it stores it all in one location. With the Sanzio program that we use currently for our reporting, that program is kind of short on helping with payroll and tracking and tallying hours. So I think this, it's roughly about $3,400 a year. They did give us a 5-year contract to look at, which makes me nervous. It seems a little long. So there's an option for probably a 3-year in there somewhere. I'd have to talk to them about it. But I'll have that ready for you next month for a review and possibly an approval. And that program is on the user side for the staff. They basically look at their phone. There's an app on their phone. They can request trades. Whenever there's an open shift or a call off, it sends mass messages, or it can be done through email, messaging, all that stuff. And it basically gives our members real time, as opposed to somebody sitting down, taking somebody out of that schedule, out of a spreadsheet physically, deleting them, then sending an email to the staff and then posting it somewhere else. It's definitely going to automate a lot of the things we do here. And plus, for Joanne, it could spit out a proper report for payroll, which gives you hours worked, sick time, vacation time, holiday time. If we had comp time, it could do that, and any other time we add in there. So I think it's a very, very good, robust platform that we can utilize and make to our advantage and free up people for other things to do, rather than sit in front of a computer messing with a spreadsheet for scheduling. That's a living, breathing document.
Justin?
Yes.
The person that you guys can contact about that is Chief Hager. He's used the lab tech.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then moving on to other things, we talked about Lexapol, training updates. We had cancer awareness done last month. Retired Lieutenant Kevin Whiting was here to train the staff up on what to look for and how to protect themselves. We did some ropes in February this month. We're doing an electric vehicle blanket soon. We're one of 3 in the county that we can take. Either we can take to our own calls, or we can take out to the to other departments that request it. Electric vehicle fires are very nasty. They require an extreme amount of water to put them out and keep them out. So the blanket is one way to kind of just snuff it out, if you will, and buy us some time, so that the salvage company becomes their problem at some point. We did our annual or biannual CPR and ACLS training for our staff. We talked about the nursing home numbers. The only thing to watch out for is, and I know the staff doesn't want to hear this, Cardinal Woods is about half capacity right now down on Chapel Road. They have about 60 or 70 beds that are full. They're going to move up to 120 beds, so they're going to look to double their capacity. So I don't think that number is going to go down.
No.
And piggybacking on that, they're a majority of a behavioral psych place, and so is Madison Healthcare. So a lot of our calls get generated from those types of patients. Inventory is getting done here, so we have a current list of what we have in case something bad happens. We're sending 2 of our members to hazmat safety officer training. I believe it's in May. This will help offset some of the county retirements. A lot of the old guys and girls are retiring, so we have to fill them with some of the young and hungry people. And 2 of our members are willing to step up and be not only a Madison resource, but a county resource as well. And then lastly, our recliners were delivered last week. They got set up, and everyone seems to really enjoy them. So thank you for that again, for approving that back in December.
Good.
And with that, I think that is all I have for my report.
Any questions for the chief?
I have none. No, sir.
Nothing? Okay. All right. Closing public portion. If we had anything out there or not? No?
All is quiet, sir.
Okay, thank you. And closing board comments, Mr. Lee. All right.
Nothing here?
Mr. Anderson.
No, sir.
Mr. Still.
No, sir.
All right. The only thing I'd like to say is y'all be careful out there
Oh, yeah.
with this ice and everything like that. I know you guys have had quite a few fires out this way. I know we've had them out towards Paynesville, and I know there's been a lot of injuries and everything like that. So y'all be careful out there. You guys are doing a great job.
Yep, you are. Outstanding job.
Okay. Is there anything else? Nothing else. No. Okay, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And a second?
Second?
Second, and roll call?
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. So?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Okay, well, that closes the meeting at 7:58 PM.